Hello and welcome back to the Health Wealth Podcast. This week I speak to Samira Adamjee, who's a gut health specialist. We go deep into all things about the gut and especially SIBO. She talks about her story of suffering with it herself, her journey to recovery, how she dealt with it, and how she's now helping others to do the same. If you have ever had digestive issues, if you still do now, if you'd had IBS, SIBO, anything along these lines, you will want to listen to this episode. We really go into detail of all the things that can affect it and how you can start to practically put some things into action to arrest it and to start to improve your health. Also, a reminder that our brand new community is up and running. It's completely free. It's a place where you can learn more about health. You can get support from people around you and just get educated on how you can take control of your own health. Link will be in the description. So make sure you sign up there and we'll see you inside. But for now, let's get on into the episode. So, hello, Samira. Welcome to the show. Why don't you give us a little bit of background on yourself and tell us who you are?
Sure. Pleasure to be here. My name is Samira Adamjee. I'm here because I had experienced some quite chronic digestive issues. This probably started around 10 years ago, actually, in my mid-late 30s. And I was experiencing reactions to almost everything I ate, whether it's an asparagus, whether it's a piece of bread, whether it was red meat, it's anything really. Very, very bloated, a lot of weight gain, quite a lot of spots on my face or rashes, irritation, and excessive bloating and constipation, brain fog. I was just not in a good place. And over time, it got worse and worse. I went to the doctors and they did a colonoscopy, they did an endoscopy. They found slight inflammation in my small intestine, but they said it's fairly minor. I mean, nothing serious, nothing critical. And they gave me all these medicines, a lot of them were antibiotics. So I took them. I felt slightly better afterwards. But, it hadn't made any real significant difference, and I was still reacting to a lot of foods. And then I started Googling a lot of stuff and, eat this, eat that. I remember one point it was like cauliflower rice. I was trying to eat cauliflower rice and that made me, it was like poison for me at that point. And then I also sought advice from a nutritionist here. He was quite helpful in some ways, but the dietary plan was so extreme that I could not follow it. And also wasn't, even when I did try, I didn't really feel it was doing me much good. I had a very minor improvement from that experience. And I thought, what is going on? And then I started Googling ferociously and I thought, okay, I need to understand what's happening, where is all this weight coming from? Where is all this fatigue coming from? And being constipated can be extremely uncomfortable. And there were many other unpleasant things that I won't mention that I experienced as part of that whole journey in digestive health. So understandably, my mood was really poor, and so what I did was decided to embark on a course. So I did a 4-year diploma at CNELM, which is the Centre for Nutrition, Education and Lifestyle Management in the UK. And it was really, really interesting for me. One of the lecturers there specialized in digestive health. So I studied, it was a kind of overview of all areas, immune system, the reproductive system, digestive health, thyroid, etc. There was a lot of modules on digestive health. And one of the lecturers there was talking about digestion, and I could relate to a lot of the symptoms that she was talking about. So I immediately booked an appointment with her. And then she said, I'm pretty sure you have something called SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. I hadn't actually heard of this at that point. Because remember back, 7, 8, 9 years ago, there was a lot less information, I think, around this whole world. It's really burgeoned in the last, 4 or 5 years, I think. And she said, you don't even need to test, but I would advise that you test. But I'm pretty sure anyway, I did a test and my levels were horrendous. I was so happy when I found out I had SIBO, because I finally found out what was happening, and I knew that I had a condition, and that there was a protocol on how to work through it, even though I had a pretty bad case of it. So it was actually really satisfying, because when you're confused about what's happening and just saying IBS, it's not very helpful. Cut a long story short, I followed a whole program with her, and then by myself, because I had some of the tools that I was learning. But I did see another nutritionist too in the early days, and I followed quite a strict diet at first. And then over time that became less strict. I was taking tons of supplements because I needed to. Again, and then finally, after a long time, I did a test and I was SIBO free. So that's a long way of probably describing what my experience was. And that's kind of my area of specialization right now, kind of IBS and digestive health. And SIBO falls within the kind of umbrella term of IBS. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that's quite a story, quite a journey. What was
Yeah.
what were some of the points of the protocol that you went on that you found helpful?
Well, initially I had to remove a lot of foods from my diet.
Mm.
And even today, because I have an IBS sensitivity, and even a lot of my family members do, so I think it is partly genetic, I have a slightly modified diet. But the key things that I removed from my diet are wheat. So not gluten, but wheat, which made a dramatic difference. Onion, garlic, certain vegetables like root vegetables, squash, pumpkin, those kind of things, soya sauce, basically key things that can feed the bacteria. Because small intestinal bacterial overgrowth is an overgrowth of bacteria in the small intestine. And it's not that we shouldn't have those bacteria, but they should be in the large intestine in small amounts. So it's in the wrong place. So if you start eating these foods, you're giving a lot of food to the bacteria, and then they start proliferating. So it was a reduced, very specific carbohydrate diet, if you like, mainly. So still eating a lot of vegetables and some fruit, and some grains as well, but not eating a lot of them. And then over time, you introduce more carbohydrates. So, yeah, it was difficult because a lot of foods have onion, a lot of food have garlic, a lot of food have wheat, but it helped me immensely. Those are the key things from a dietary perspective that I did, and which I was also doing more instinctively was, eating dinner very early. So I would typically have my dinner at 6 or 6:30, and that was like gold dust for me. I mean, it really worked. So those are some of the key aspects I did from a dietary perspective. So yeah, it is restrictive at first, but then the idea is over time you start introducing foods and see how you react.
Yeah, yeah. And were there non-dietary aspects of things you implemented as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, one aspect was sleep, which
Mm.
was pretty good for me overall, but really trying to get into more of a routine and habit in terms of timing. So
Yeah.
we have a body clock, and it's good to try and respect it. So trying to really be in bed by 10 if possible, 10:30, not later than that. Waking up early and having a good morning routine again. And I was doing these things but more sporadically, but I became quite kind of regimented around it. Stress management is obviously, we all know, helps. So I try to work on that as much as possible. So I think stress and sleep, exercise I was doing anyway. And to be honest, because I had such a chronic form of SIBO, I actually exercised a bit less.
Mm.
I mean, my exercise was moderate; it was not that high, but I didn't want to stress my body. So when I would go for more swims, I would
Yeah.
go for more walks. Just in the initial stages, So also just being mindful of exercise is critical, but doing a big hit class is probably not what you want to be doing when you have SIBO and high levels, because it's counterproductive. So those are kind of some of the key things that I did, I think. So sleep, stress, and kind of being more mindful of the kind of exercise And there was a lot of breathing and meditation. To be honest, I found it difficult. I was going through quite a difficult period of personally as well in my life. I should be doing it, but I didn't. But there is a lot of evidence to show that that works, and now I do it a lot more. But you work on what you can,
Yes.
to kind of relax the mind basically, and de-stress yourself. But again, it's whatever works for you. So for me, it was going for a swim. I found very therapeutic, or having a bath at night with oils. Those kind of things worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Exercise, as you said, exercise is a stress on the body, and intense exercise, you don't want to overdo it. It's good to be active, it's good to move, but intense exercise you've got to be careful with. And I mean, stress is huge. You said you were going through a difficult time at that point in your life. That could have even contributed even more to your gut issues, because that's known to, that has an effect. And sleep, of
Absolutely.
course. Sleep is
Yeah. Yeah.
so important.
Sleep is, yeah. I think all these are contributing factors. And the one thing that was always highlighted is, what is your root cause? And a lot of people
Hmm.
don't know what their root cause is. And it could be one of those factors and others. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things, because when we spoke off air, and I think you mentioned it just earlier now, was about personalized approaches, and that's so important
Mm-hmm.
because two people could present with the same symptoms, same condition, but their cause could be different. And to
Yeah,
treat them, you have to get to the cause. So you've got to look for that. So yeah, that's
exactly.
that's super important. Did you spend time sort of figuring out what it was that was causing your issues?
Yeah, I think for me, it was quite a high carbohydrate, starchy diet. Um, um, Quite high stress levels, probably quite high alcohol, or combination of those factors, I think, were kind of contributing to it. But yeah, I think I am by nature more of an anxious type of person, so I think the stress angle probably did contribute, and then the
Mhm.
dietary factors probably didn't help.
Yeah.
But for me, through my experience, the many different causes of SIBO and how to treat it from a physical perspective, for me, it's always the digestive impairments, so things like low stomach acid, low bile production, and these are all factors that we need to be working properly to digest food, and they've always been low through testing. So I know, and what factors make those low? Again, it's sleep, stress. They do make a difference, and it's something that happens over time.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that if you're sleep deprived or stressed for 3 months that's gonna, that's gonna happen. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a build up. It's often many different things, and it builds up over time, as you say, and builds up. You alluded before to about bacteria. People think of bacteria as a bad thing, but we have bacteria in our gut, and we need bacteria. It's just when it becomes unbalanced, like that's when it's an issue, and that happens over time, doesn't it? With different
Exactly.
factors.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's as you say, we need bacteria, and there's some bacteria that only become problematic when they, you know, go to very high levels. Otherwise, most of our colon has tons of bacteria, and we
Yeah,
need them. So
yeah.
they're not bad. They're good. They're friendly. Many of them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's about keeping it in balance. And I noticed one of the things you mentioned earlier as well was you were put on antibiotics at first, which, in my opinion, are one of the worst things there is for gut health is antibiotics, that they destroy our guts. I mean, do you think that contributed to making any of your symptoms worse?
I'm not sure. It's hard to say, because I didn't. I know what you mean, but I'm not a general big antibiotic user otherwise.
Yeah,
So until then, it's not that I, through my childhood, adolescence, or early life, took I hardly took any antibiotics. I rarely did. So my antibiotic use is probably very little in general. And
yeah,
from the doctors, pre-taking it to post, I didn't see a major difference. But I completely understand what you're saying. A lot of people who have gut issues, who have digestive impairments, it's just to overuse of antibiotics. Yeah.
yeah,
And they sometimes and depending on which countries you live in, I know Dubai is pretty notorious, but they, I mean, they literally are, giving them out like sweets.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need them, absolutely. I mean, and if you've got a bout of food poisoning, or you've got something that you can fix with antibiotics, why not take it? But generally, I think the herbal antimicrobials are, I know from experience and through clinic, can be really powerful, but they're just a lot more expensive. You have to pay for them yourself. Often you need more than one round. So there are those cons to them, and the pros to some of these herbal microbials. The many kinds of oregano, and thyme, and cinnamon, and grapefruit seed extract, and all these different herbs, obviously in quite potent amounts. Often, if somebody has SIBO, as an example, they may also have some fungal overgrowth, or they may have candida, and they may have an imbalance of bacteria. So taking these herbs deals with all of that often. So that's the advantage of some of these herbs.
Hi guys, now I don't promote many products because most of them are just pure marketing, and I'm not going to recommend anything that I don't personally believe in. However, when I do find a good product, then I'm more than happy to share it with you all. So I'm excited to share Hazard Toys. They're combining fitness and fun for your little ones. Hazard Toys specialises in soft, plush, fitness-themed toys for newborns and up. These adorable toys promote healthy habits early on with plush, dumbbells and kettlebells that are perfect for tiny hands. Each toy includes a small rattle, which is fantastic for sensory development and keeping little ones entertained. And Hazard Toys integrates physical activity into playtime, enhancing motor skills and coordination. So we've teamed up with Hazard Toys for an exclusive offer. You can use the code HEALTH10 for 10% off any toy or bundle. You get free speedy UK delivery from the local warehouses, and you can get a free ebook, Dreams of Pink Plant Woods, with every purchase. So don't miss out and use the code HEALTH10 today. Yeah, absolutely. I think when you make changes and you are using natural ways to improve your health, whatever condition you have, I find that it's going to just improve your overall. It's going to improve things that you don't even know are an
Yeah.
issue. With your SIBO, because obviously gut health affects so many other things. Did you have other conditions or issues that you also saw improve as you improved your SIBO?
I think my skin improved, my energy improved, my weight just dropped.
Mm.
It just fell. Everyone's like, "What diet are you doing?" I said, "I'm not on a diet." It was just the bacteria. Because when you have, there are two types of SIBO. Well, there are three types of SIBO usually. One is more constipation driven. You could say one is methane dominant SIBO, and it generally manifests as being more constipation driven, but not always. The other one is, hydrogen dominant, which tends to be more, again, diarrhea driven, but not always. And you can have a combination of the two. And then you can also have hydrogen sulfide SIBO. So there are different categories and they require different protocols. Mine was more methane dominant, and methane dominant is more complex and more challenging. And for many people, it leads to a lot of weight gain. And that was definitely my issue, yeah, for sure, because these methanogens extract a lot of calories from food. So they're often also known as obesogens. So, again, that's very interesting, is if there's somebody who's really putting on a lot of weight and is not eating necessarily that badly and is exercising, but is having gut issues, I'd be like, don't worry, let's test you out. And it's probably something there that's causing this. So it's just interesting from that angle as well, how it can affect so many different areas. But yeah, I mean, weight, skin, mood, energy, I really felt like a different person initially, which is, and I was like, what am I doing? I'm just taking some herbs and removing some food. So it's pretty quite enlightening really for me. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's good to hear. And what was
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier on that, you kind of got palmed off a bit with the doctors and kind of the medical system. What was your overall experience with them? Personally, I'm not a big fan of that. I don't really think they understand gut health properly at all. But what was your personal experience with them?
I mean, it wasn't that great because they didn't really help me much. What they did do is a lot of the tests, and the endoscopies, the colonoscopies, the stool tests, etc. But I think, and I was getting quite frustrated with them. But then, if you take a step back, some doctors are functional medicine doctors, and they may have a different approach. I didn't see a functional medicine doctor at that time. I didn't know of any back then. They work with a manual, right? And that's how they're trained. So they have a checklist, and I'm generalizing a little bit, and they do their various tests. And if you don't have something showing up in a scan, like an ulcer, or God forbid, some cancerous cells, or anything obvious, let's say, and they also might do stool tests. And again, if they can't see anything like H. pylori or the things that they test for, they kind of say you're stressed, which is not very useful, helpful. It's not, even if you are, but you can't just tell me to meditate and just stressed, because there's sometimes, I'm not that stressed and I still suffer. So I don't think they're equipped is really the right way, because for them this is all quite foreign, and I think the landscape's changing. But I think some of them think nutritionists like me are just kind of not very they don't have much confidence, I suppose is what I'm trying to say, with individuals like myself, because they don't believe in this, I think, for the most part. And they would say things like it can make you worse, and I think a lot of natural medicine doctors now also know that, so they just don't know what to do, honestly, and that's why they give antibiotics, etc. So I think they need to start adapting and refreshing their approaches a little bit, and modernizing them a little bit, because now we just have a lot more data and trials available, and the world has changed, right? Because a lot of what we eat, actually, again, one of my root causes was, it was also, I was ordering in a lot. I was working, I was ordering lunch and dinner in quite often. I cooked occasionally. I like cooking, but I was just busy with work. So, I would just order in more often than not. And probably, it's not that I was ordering junk food, but I don't know what oils they used and how processed some of the stuff was. So, maybe SIBO and these conditions 50, 60 years ago were much less, because what we ate was much cleaner. What we ate was more seasonal. There was less, restaurants and fast, ordering. They want these apps where at a click of a finger, you could just, order from Deliveroo or Careem or whatever it is. So the modern life and convenience, I think, may have also contributed, because the quality of what we eat, I think, has become much worse. There's so much starch, added starches, emulsifiers. I mean, even if you go to the supermarket now, guar gum additives, all these kind of things. And over time, if you have a slightly compromised gut, forget SIBO, but slightly, that's just gonna aggravate it. So I think, maybe when doctors trained, it was less of an issue back then. So yeah, that's just an observation.
Yeah, I agree with you completely that it's the food. The majority of food we eat nowadays is not natural. It's not anything we've eaten before. It's only existed the last 50, 60 years. And it's clearly damaging to us. There's a load of chemicals in our food that we don't even know what they are. And you even go to the zoo and there's a sign there that says don't feed the animals, because eating food that's not their natural diet will make them sick. But we don't apply it to
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's funny, like sometimes I buy, for example, some vegetables from the local Spinneys where I live, just if not a big shop. And if it's not organic, normally these radishes last 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and they look exactly the same. And then, I bought these organic radishes from the organic shop. And obviously you get these ripe markets now and stuff, and they tasted amazing. I forgot how peppery and sharp they can taste, and it was a completely different experience, and they didn't look great. I mean, they looked much lighter in color. They weren't kind of bread and stuff. And again, in 3 days, they started, looking much worse. And that's a sign. If your food is not going off, that's also a bit concerning, right? So it's quite unfortunate. And I think that's been a big contributor to a lot of people, experiencing more gut issues, and it's a difficult one because what do people do? Not everyone can cook, 2-3 meals a day, but they're very busy. So it's a challenge, I think, for a lot of people.
I agree. Yeah. And for some people, it'll be a challenge to find their produce local, and to try and get it local, which, we always encourage people to. I had on a podcast last year, I spoke to a farmer and he spent time in South America, and that the farmers
Mm-hmm.
there, they had their own patch where they grew their own fruit and veg, and it was going, like you say, it was going off within a couple of days. And then they had the big fields where they were growing fruit and veg that would come to the rest of the world, to us, and that wouldn't get to us for 7-8 weeks and then be in storage, and then we'd get it and it would still last another few weeks. And so you're wondering, what are they putting on it to make it last that long? And it's things that aren't any good for us.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate, really. And I think that's why we're so depleted in things like magnesium, and everyone's taking these supplements, because it all comes from the soil, right?
Hmm.
So we shouldn't be needing to supplement so much, and we shouldn't be having all these issues, right? And it's because, our diet should, if we eat intelligently, contain most of the nutrients we need. But it's the industrial revolution, etc. So let's see what can be done about that. But I would just advise people that you can buy certain things that are fresh and good quality. Then don't think about it if you can, because I think it's important.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think it's really important. And the fresher, the closer you can get to source for your food, the better, I think. Touching on supplements there, you said you were taking supplements as well before, when you were
yes.
recovering because you were deficient in so many things. What have
Yeah.
you found are some of the best supplements, or some of the things that people are deficient in sort of most commonly?
I think most commonly people are deficient in magnesium. Magnesium we can get from so many sources of food sources. However, because of the environment, the pollution, stress, it's modern life, most people are quite, can be deficient and find a lot of benefit from taking it. There are different forms of magnesium. So you get things like magnesium citrate. You get magnesium oxide, which has much more of a laxative effect. So sometimes it's quite good for people who are very constipated, but otherwise you shouldn't necessarily take it. Then there's magnesium glycinate, which is stronger, more effective for kind of anxiety or sleep, relaxation. But I think that's one. Obviously, vitamin D is a vitamin that a lot of people can be deficient in, but it's important to get your levels tested, so that you can supplement accordingly. And I think a lot of the research and what I find is people from, the subcontinent, a lot of the Arab population, some of the African population tend to be more deficient than Europeans. It's a bit of a generalization, because the way they absorb it is weaker. It's a genetic factor. So I think vitamin D, magnesium, vitamin C is a very, very strong antioxidant. It can also be really good for constipation. But in my case, the supplements when I had SIBO specifically were very specific to digestion. So they were things like, I was taking something to increase my bowel production. So that's very specific for increasing bowel flow. There's a lot of foods that also help with that, such as bitter foods. So that was a bit of an eye opener. I didn't realize how, in so many European countries, they have these aperitifs and all that, like ouzo in Greece, and I think limoncello in Italy, and it's this. But they always say it's good for digestion, and then you kind of, now I get it. It is, and one of the reasons, and there's so many reasons why, because it's bitter essentially, and bitter foods are really helpful. So now I try and have more lemon, limes, radish, rocket, and those kind of foods. But so bile related supplement was really helpful for me. Digestive enzymes as well. In some people can be a lack of digestive enzymes can contribute to SIBO. So I was taking some good supplementation for that helped me quite a bit. And then I was taking oregano and berberine. That was specifically that's just for their SIBO. That's not a long-term use. But those are very specific. And there was something called butyrate, which is a short chain fatty acid. I'm sure you've heard about it. And again, I did testing to show that my levels were low and a lot of people's levels are. We can produce very healthy levels of butyrate if we eat enough fiber in our diet. But of course, a lot of people with digestive issues, SIBO, can't eat enough fiber, or they're not absorbing it. So it's natural that their levels will be low. So I was taking a butyrate supplement as well. And so those are very specific digestive related supplements. And for more in general, more what I see with individuals in clinic, magnesium can be really supportive. Vitamin D should be checked, as mentioned. A good round multivitamin is not a bad idea as well. Multivitamins don't tend to be very high in things like vitamin C or magnesium or certain minerals, unless you get a very specific one. But so it's a kind of good all-rounder. It's also good not to get dependent on them. So, if you are taking multivitamin, it's sometimes not a bad idea to take it for 5, 6 months and just take a break for 3, 4 months, or take it when, you're traveling a lot, or, you're, the weather's not good or immunity is a bit low, that then you can add on more. And I think those are the main ones. But then again, they're very specific supplements individuals' needs are. Another one that's quite commonly supplemented and I would recommend, depending on the person's diet, is omega-3. If people are eating sufficient amounts of oily fish, like salmon, tuna, mackerel, etc., and flax seeds and stuff, they probably may not need to take it. However, if you don't like, a lot of people don't like eating those foods, a lot of people are vegetarian, then they may want to get their levels tested, and it's probably a good idea to supplement, because that's very anti-inflammatory. So I'm a big proponent of supplements. It helped me dramatically. SIBO in itself cannot be solved through diet. For example, I think there's enough evidence to show that it's a combination of supplementation. But then after, and in general in life, I think it's good to take supplementation, but people also get a little obsessed with supplements, and sometimes they're taking, without exaggeration, 7, 8 supplements a day, some of those several times a day. They don't actually have any specific issue that they know of, or they're otherwise feeling in relative, but they're like, I need to take this. And, so again, it's just being mindful of supplementation has its role, and I do supplement myself, but I like to take breaks, and I just listen to my body, and I know when I need certain things. It's a band-aid, right? So and then of course a lot of people now supplement with collagen because of anti-aging, and it's a big money. I mean, they're great. Supplements are amazing, and there's some fantastic supplements out there, but just be a little mindful of the marketing around some of these things, because when I go to I only buy very reputable supplements. I spend more, but I'd rather just buy. For me, it's quality versus quantity, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the supplements, if you look at the back of them, a lot of the chemists, pharmacies here, chemists is UK, you still see the dosages are really poor. So you get this buy one, get one free. I'm just saying, that's great. And I do sometimes buy them depending on what the supplement is. But then you look at the back, I'm like, just from research I've seen, you need like 4 tablets to get that, sufficient dose to help with, whatever it is that you're dealing with, especially with some hormone related stuff. And it's like, well, this is only going to last me 10 days. So, you know what I mean? So you just, I think it's just to be a little mindful of marketing nowadays. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. With supplements, definitely you do need to. I mean, like with collagen that you mentioned there, there's 28 types of collagen, and most supplements contain just one. So, people are taking the supplement thinking they're getting all they need, but, you're better off. You can get your collagen from food and have all 28. So I think it is a lot. And like you said, people become reliant on it. Like people want to not change anything about their diet, not change anything about their lifestyle. They just want this one magic supplement that will change it, which, like you said, it won't do that. You can just they can help
and they
you,
can be amazing. And at times we need them. At times, if I have an IBS flare up, or I'm like, okay, I supplement a lot, but then I stop. I know I kind of know when to do it. I mean, the other thing with more in more general terms, if you eat something that's high in vitamin C, just as an example, like, I don't know, strawberries or, lemon, lime, you're getting a vitamin C, but you're getting tons of other minerals by eating that piece of fruit, like you said, and you're getting the fiber. So you're always going to get more benefit from eating something than taking the supplement. But they do definitely have their role, and they can be hugely supportive for an individual, if they're facing a specific health issue. But just not to get over reliant on kind of
Yeah.
all these supplements, because it can go a bit crazy at times, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. People can. And I know as well with gut health, when people have a damaged gut, their absorption as well is poor. So that's another reason that you
Yes.
potentially need more. So did you find, as you were able to kind of heal your condition, did you find that you needed the supplements a bit less?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's actually one point, because it took me a long time to deal with my SIBO, and at one point when I was feeling good, I had no SIBO. Even after I was cured from SIBO, I still had a bit of IBS. So
Mm.
again, people get a bit of so hooked onto the focus of SIBO, but even once your SIBO is clear, it doesn't mean it's not. You don't have to just look at bacteria in isolation, right? You have to look at the whole
Yeah.
terrain. But there, when I felt the best, I wasn't supplementing with anything. I mean, literally for 6 months, I didn't take anything. I just thought I need a break, and I felt fine. And then I'm like, I was getting a bit, with the why weather and stuff. But yeah. So it, it's good to just know when to take it and when not to. But in terms of absorption, I mean, there's a lot of um, depletions of vitamins and minerals when you have digestive health, because of the lack of absorption, because you're not being able to get the nutrients from the food. So it's not just about eating it, but are you absorbing it? Are you
Yes.
digesting it? Are you metabolizing it? And often, if you have kind of leaky gut, as they call it, then your brush water enzymes won't be working, and so you're not going to be able to get all the nutrition. So things like B12 is very, very common to have low levels of. And for example, also to get sufficient amounts of B12, you need bile, you need good levels of stomach acid. So everything is linked, right,
Yeah.
intrinsically. And you often find that once you work on a specific area, so many other areas improve, because our body, it's completely interrelated, and nothing really works in isolation. So a lot of people do find that once they're repairing and healing their gut, and they do their tests of vitamins, etc., with the doctor, suddenly the B12 is much better because you're absorbing it. The iron levels are much better. So yeah, absolutely. I don't get concerned when I see somebody who's got low iron, low vitamin B12, if they have, if they're experiencing digestive issues. It's expected almost, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure supplementing with that is going to also make much more sense, because if you're not going to absorb it, what's the point? So again, you have to look at the level below and say, okay, why is it that you can't absorb the vitamin B12? And then that's the whole digestive kit. So yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You've got to dig down to the cause, haven't you? And treat that rather than just throwing other things at it. And even with B vitamins, of course, our gut basically produces the entire complement of B vitamins as well when it's healthy. And so
Exactly.
again, when it's unhealthy, we're not doing that. We're not absorbing it from food. We're not absorbing it from supplements. So, of course, we're going to be low, but we've got to address, why we've got those issues there in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the challenge here is that, it's a whole ecosystem, right?
Yes.
So have you been eating as well as you should be? Have you really been eating enough of the colorful vegetables, and protein and healthy fats? Are you drinking enough water? Are you moving? How are you sleeping well? How is your psychological state? And so many other factors. How are you feeling in general? How are you spending your time? What is your thoughts? All of this affects our gut, and trying to work through those different areas often is a good way, but it takes time, and it's a much longer approach. But I think a more therapeutic approach, because a lot of people just want to fix things now with a pill,
Yeah.
as we know, which I understand and I respect, but the other route takes a lot more hard work. So Yeah. And sometimes some compromise as well. So it's just important that, a lot of people look at, stool tests and like, oh, you've got low bacterial levels of this and your bifidobacteria is this, and we need to add this supplement. And that's fine. And I'm not saying I've done that myself. And you need supplementation, as mentioned, sometimes can be really beneficial, but don't forget to look at the broader terrain. That's all. I think um, that's important, because the number of gut issues that I see now um, is it's just increasing. And I get a lot of people, young people coming. I mean, 20 in university, 20-year-olds plus. I mean, it's not, I got mine in kind of my mid late 30s. I wasn't particularly young or old, but it's just increasing and increasing. And it's not that these people have really bad diets. I mean, they're young, there has to be something. And I think, they eat out a lot. I think also another thing, and I've been guilty of this when I stopped working for my corporate job before, was, I used to be on my phone a lot. This is before, and all the social media and all this light, and all the stimulation, which again I have been guilty of, and I'm like, what have I become? And then I stopped it. Is also, I think, and I know from my own experience, contributing a
Yeah.
lot, because it you're not letting you're not in a rest state. Even if you're flicking and scrolling nonstop, that's not being in a restful state. You're seeing constant images coming up, uh, visuals. It affects your whole cortisol, your stress hormones. People are sleeping as well. So I think the modern world, with all this extra data and stimulation and electronics, is really not helping. We never had all of this before, right?
No. No, exactly.
So
No, you're right. It seems to be getting worse with every generation, the gut health. You said we've got these outside toxins. It's not just the food that's changed, the environmental toxins. There's, more and more vaccines, there's medications, there's antibiotics. And then obviously, kids get their gut bacteria from their mother. And so she's got poor, she passes it on to them, then they have toxins.
yeah,
And then, and
yeah,
it, and it,
yeah,
it, it does seem to be getting worse with each generation, which, you kind of look at it
yeah,
and think,
absolutely.
how are we actually going to address it?
Yeah, I know. That's
Yeah.
true. Go live on a farm. No,
Yeah.
but no, I think yeah, I think we have to also be quite mindful of just, yeah, how we live our life and what we do. And because
Yeah.
it's food and lifestyle thing, that,
Yes,
as you
absolutely.
mentioned, that, and our thoughts and everything. It's all linked to our gut bacteria, and just eating a varied diet and things like legumes, for example. There's a lot of studies out there, and Jason Horlak is really well known in the kind of probiotic prebiotic world. Has done a lot of work in this space about you know lentils and chickpeas and specific legumes. They directly increase some of our good beneficial bacterial strains, right? So, and again, it's this whole Mediterranean diet that's so overused, but it's true. And we know the blue zone. I mean, it, what was interesting around some of these areas is they do eat everything. In the Mediterranean diet, nothing is really avoided. Some things are restricted, like they eat red meat, but it's less. They're not all vegetarian, but they eat a lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables, a lot of chickpeas, a lot of sardines, a lot of oily fish. You know what I mean? They have it. If they drink wine, it's very good quality. It's one. You know what I mean? It's just. And I think that just the blue zones also is interesting, because you get it in Calabria in Italy, or you get it in Okinawa in Japan, and many other areas. Their diet is completely different, right? They don't eat similar foods. It's quite different. But what they all have in common is they eat a large variety of foods. They have a large plant-based food diet, not exclusively at all. I mean, there's a lot of healthy fish again that's consumed in Japan, etc. But they make sure they're getting their fiber. They make sure they're getting colorful vegetables. And they eat their protein. There's no diet that, you know what I mean. They eat everything in a balanced manner, and I think another thing that is a common theme, that they all have a sense of community. They have a sense of purpose. So these things help you feel good and live well. So I think people also forget that aspect of it. Diet is important, but it's one part of the equation. It's not only diet. Yeah. So, and I think again with the modern world and computers and the way we interact has become so virtual, which has its benefits, but I think direct human interaction and just picking up the phone and not just, I know I'm being silly, but these little things I think it affects our physiology, right? And it does affect how we feel, and it's all related because it's the gut brain axis that plays such a key role, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. We have done a couple podcasts on the blue zones. There's quite a lot of myths around what they actually eat, but what some of the main things that you outline there that they all have in common is community, is they have like a very different paced life to what we have. They're all
Yeah.
very, it's like they're just in their community. They don't have the stress, they don't have the environmental toxins. Everything they eat is local. It's all within a couple of miles. And
Exactly.
they have all these things in common, and they're all things that we don't have in the outside world.
No,
We're
no,
surrounded by
exactly.
toxins. We're all stressed. It's fast paced, and they're living completely differently, and it shows.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, there is a lot of myths. Yeah, and yeah, but anyway, but yeah, exactly as you say, it's these factors. I mean, I went to Europe recently, and I had a bit of wheat because I am wheat sensitive,
Mm.
and I joined. I was there, and there was some beautiful breads, and I thought, okay, let me just try. I had a very minor reaction. I could tolerate it. So for me, that was really interesting because obviously maybe it's how it's made
Yeah.
and what ingredients are used and how it's fermented. So not again, maybe if I lived in one of these countries, I would have less wheat sensitivity because the plants are different there. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's different in different countries, and I'm lactose intolerant, and I've had that tested with my GP. So I generally have I have lactose-free milk, normal milk, cow's milk, but lactose-free yogurt, and generally I avoid dairy, especially in Dubai. And again, there were these amazing. I was with some friends, and they were having these amazing milk-based products, and I tried it, and I was slightly bloated, but it was worth it. So I thought this is really strange. So for me, it was also showed that the dairy is different. So it really, maybe if I lived in a quiet area with just naturally grown produce, I wouldn't have as many food sensitivities at all. So
Yeah,
it just shows.
absolutely. How food is made has a huge difference, as you say. The way it's made, the way it's prepared. The bread that you had in Europe, it's probably prepared in really old-fashioned ways and brought in fresh. And then you go to places like America, where it's all mass-produced and
Yeah,
chemicals added to it. It's a completely different product. It looks the same, but it's a completely different product. And that does make a difference. And that's why if you can get natural and local and where it's been properly, taken by someone and
exactly,
produced, it's
exactly,
a huge
exactly.
difference, right?
Huge difference, removes all the headache, and you're happy because yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's definitely something to be mindful of. And
Yeah.
one of the areas I'm also doing right now is just exploring a lot more products, and I want to kind of visit some farms. I just want to get a little bit more educated around quality. I mean, I'm not going to leave where I live. I can't leave right now, so I have to work with what I have,
Yeah.
and I just want to kind of investigate that a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's really important. So you mentioned that obviously just jumping back to your story, you improved your health and you did your course. And then
Mhm.
obviously where did you then transition from that to now you're working within that
Correct.
industry and doing it.
Correct.
So tell us
Correct.
how you went to that and how that's going.
Yeah, so I did 4 years of studies, and so that was very intense. Last year was clinical work as well,
Mm.
where we work with patients that the clinic send to us, and it's all supervised, etc. And then I established myself this year. And I set up a company. It's called Fix Me Nutrition. I do face-to-face meetings or online, just depending on where the individual is based. I do like to meet them face-to-face where possible, but sometimes it's just less stressful with traffic and timings. And a lot of people actually are available or prefer to meet kind of on Saturdays or post-work. Zoom actually works quite well, like we are doing now. So, and the way I work is I send them quite a detailed questionnaire in advance. I do a complimentary call first because I need to make sure that I am comfortable working with the individual, and I feel I can help the individual. And there's some cases, that I think I would not be the right person to support them with their specific issues, for example, thyroid, etc. That's not my specialty. So my specialty is much more kind of broadly digestive issues, I would say. And then I do a complimentary call, and if they're happy, we book in a time for consultation, 60 to 90 minutes, questionnaire sent beforehand, which is quite detailed, so I can prepare. And then I go through their whole kind of life history, the diet, the eating habits, their lifestyle, any key stresses, any key events in their life, etc. It's a bit of a kind of digging, I'd say, and then I follow up with them. I give them a detailed report in terms of why they might be experiencing the symptoms that they're experiencing, and provide references, and what they should increase in their diet, what they should reduce, other lifestyle factors that could help them, supplementation if needed, and testing as well. So sometimes I recommend some testing via their GP, and if not, there are private laboratories that I'm a member of, where they can also do the tests. Because some tests are not available through GPs, and some comprehensive testing can help remove the guesswork, so we know what we're dealing with. But again, it depends what the client, what the client's comfortable with, what the budget is, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's been apparent throughout this whole thing is that the approach needs to be personalized, and it needs to be a holistic approach. You have to look at everything,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
I think is a shortcoming of the medical system, is that you don't get that. But where you're talking directly to a person, like to you, you can take the
yeah,
time to actually look at everything and
yeah,
really address it, which I think is important.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, quite often, they need follow-up appointments, sometimes not. It varies on the individual, but that's kind of how I work. My website is fixme-nutrition.com, and there's contact details there in terms of how to get in touch with me.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I'll put all your links in the show notes so people can easily find you for that. Absolutely. What's the most common conditions that you're getting people come in with? Do you specialize in SIBO, or is it all kind of digestive conditions?
Digestive conditions, I would say specialty SIBO, but broadly digestive conditions within that. IBS, I would say IBS. And then within that there's so many areas.
Yeah.
So I think the most common condition that I see people having, well, one is SIBO, and they don't know they have SIBO until they have it. But it's this kind of general concept of leaky gut, and people are kind of saying, sometimes I have to rush from a meeting and leave it, have to go to the loo, I get these urgent interruptions, and they're unexpected, and I can't eat wheat anymore, I can't eat bread, I'm reacting to lentils. So again, it's all, for me, that's kind of a direct sign of, okay, you might have something like an imbalanced gut bacteria, or you might have, as they call it, leaky gut, or intestinal permeability. And some of these people, I shouldn't generalize, but they're pretty fit otherwise. Some of them are quite fit, some of them less, but they all exercise, not religiously necessarily, but they're active. They're not particularly poor eaters. So again, I think it's just one of those things where it's probably been bubbling away over time. Some of them are quite stressed. I mean, they're not. I mean, they're managing their stress, but there's some of them have their own businesses. They're trying to fund. I mean, they've just got a lot on,
Yeah.
and they're dealing with it quite well. Remarkably well. But even though their body isn't. So that's the thing where even if you feel you're in control and you are and you're performing and you're delivering and it's great, sometimes it's another part of the body that is reacting to it. And I think that's one of the fundamental factors that I'm seeing: food sensitivities, food reactivities. And then from that, they're like, oh, I feel really tired. I couldn't even go to the gym for 2 days because I just didn't have the energy. So food sensitivities and energy, again, in relation to the broader IBS. And I think a lot of that is related to the kind of leaky gut aspect of things. I do also get quite a bit of weight loss clients because weight loss spans over so many areas. And again, with weight loss, I find it quite interesting, and it's an area I'm delving into more because a lot of these people, and some of them are very overweight and fine, some of them are not. They're actually, they share their whole body compositions and gym work with me, etc. They're really fit, but they're obsessed with becoming more fit and having a thinner body. And then some of them, the pattern I'm seeing, are protein obsessed. I mean, literally, they're having protein ice cream. It's like, I didn't even know that existed. Amounts of cheese or dairy, because it's hard to always get enough protein, especially for women. Sometimes they can't eat huge amounts of chicken and meat. So, and it's kind of like, well, and from the literature, and again, this is a very debatable topic, I'm not sure that you need such high levels of protein. At least the evidence doesn't show that in order to lose weight, right? So it's that's been a very interesting area, dealing with weight loss. I mean, you get the very overweight, and then you know how to work with that, but then you get the quite good body composition people who are wanting to decrease their body fat a little bit more, increase their muscle mass. And that, for me, the muscle mass side, I'm like, you need to see a trainer. That's not my area. I can work with you on the fat loss and this protein obsession. Should I cut out more carbs and eat more protein? I'm like, no. I said, that's not working for you. So why you have to try something different. And so, and another thing that I see is they just don't eat balanced meals. But those are the main areas I would say that I work in. I work in today.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I think with the way I look at it with the whole weight loss thing is that losing weight is about what you eat, but gaining muscle is about what you do in the gym. Like you can't eat more protein to gain more muscle. You just got to put the work in, is what you have to do, which I think a lot of people don't want to do.
Well, some do it, and then I'm like, well, maybe what you're doing isn't working anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not a fitness specialist in muscle mass, but there must be the whole science around it. They're like, should I lift more? I'm lifting heavier. And I'm like, well, it's not working. So, maybe your body needs a different range of exercises to do it. But I think it's social media, I think, to a large degree.
Yeah, you know what that is? That is a big thing, because they're probably seeing guys on social media who are pumped full of steroids and have got massive really quick. But naturally, you can't do that. There's a limit to how much muscle you can put on, as naturally, you can't beat that.
Right.
So
And
yeah,
it's probably genetic component, right, to how much
yeah,
you can. You can.
exactly.
Because we're
Yeah.
not designed to be
No.
so
No, we're not. I agree. I think, people who bodybuilders or people who get super muscular, like, I've got respect for them for, putting the work in, but it's not actually a healthy body type to have. No, we're not supposed to be that muscular.
Yeah. Agreed. But it's interesting.
Yes. Yeah, there's so many different layers to it and so many different things, isn't there? And it's, as you say, you've got to
Yeah.
look at it all personalized, and you've got to look at the whole picture, no matter what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant. Listen, thank you so much for giving us your time today.
Thank you.
I've
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed it. I hope you have too.
Great. I have, absolutely. Yeah, it's been really, really good. So it's been very useful. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, so I will share all your links, as I said, on the description so everyone can find you easily. Thanks again for coming on. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time, and let's get optimal together.